Okay, I think we're pretty
live.
good. We're live.
We are live.
What's up, guys?
Cashflow to Go show.
With special guest, Stephan.
Stephan.
G Money.
We are in London, Los Angeles right now.
Yeah, coming to you live from Graham's studio. It's pretty pimpin', man.
There we go. So I'm opening it up now on my phone so I can read comments and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a lot of devices going on, so
Yeah.
bear with us. We got Lotus Esprit? No, Lotus. What is it? Exige.
Yeah. S240.
Right next to me
S240,
here.
yeah.
We got all the stuff you've seen on Graham's channel right behind
Yeah.
you. We are in the lair, the mecca of YouTubers. We're sitting in it.
Yeah.
Feels surreal.
So we just flew in on Wednesday, so just been here a couple of days, and it's actually, our first day was pretty eventful, all things considered. But,
Yeah, it was a good day.
Yeah. So
based on our travel and then hanging out with Graham.
yeah, and then a little celebrity stalking.
Ty Lopez.
Yeah, we got to see into his garage knowledge.
He got to see us a bit.
A
Yeah.
little bit, yeah.
He was off to the Lakers game, and we let him be, but yeah. We saw his bookshelf and him leaving with his friends, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was all thanks to this man over here, so.
Amazing timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a little lucky. It was pretty cool to see him. You know, some people were commenting, oh, I thought he was a scam and this and this. Like, you know,
No, he's not a scam.
he's not a scam. He's still a businessman. He's very good at it, selling the dream to you to make more money and all that.
Yeah.
Right? So
Hacking the algorithms and all that. So.
exactly. Yeah.
So I think actually we already got a question.
Yeah, we
So
do. Yeah.
I'm not a car person, but someone wants to
Yeah,
know.
the Tesla, I
Yeah.
saw that. It looks insane. The Tesla. I don't know about how much they're gonna be asking for it. I think they were saying like maybe 120 grand or 100.
Oh, okay.
Or no,
yeah.
250 I think it was.
Oh,
It
really?
was
Okay.
$250,000, which is a lot, but it's Tesla.
Yeah.
So it's like the 0 to 60 in under like 2 seconds is incredible. I mean, that's unheard of. So I love it, but I'm not gonna spend $250 on it.
Yeah.
So.
But they gotta charge that because they gotta pay for that 15.6 million building you showed us last night.
Yeah. If you guys weren't aware, Tesla bought this building in Santa Monica. They spent like $15.2 million. Highest price ever per square foot in Santa Monica. Like $5,200 per square foot.
The
For
space
this little
was like
tiny space.
3 or 4 of your garages, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, it was tiny.
two show cars in there. We could see from the Promenade Street there. That's not much.
Yeah. But they got to sell a few of those and they're good to go.
Yeah.
But it looks pretty insane. Like I would love to see one on the road.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the first Tesla Roadster too. I mean, I love that car. That was based on the Lotus Elise. Used the same chassis as the Lotus.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they put batteries in it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they rebranded it, but this exact same chassis as this car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
You might get a BMW next.
Oh, maybe an M3.
M3. Yeah. Just for like a day-to-day car.
Right.
Yeah. I think that was cool when you talked about that, like kind of buying something that makes you make more money later on. Like it forces you to like get out.
Yeah. If I know I have a larger payment, I want to make that up as quickly as possible. So I'll probably try to hustle a little bit.
I really like that strategy.
Yeah. I love the idea of kind of like forcing yourself into a corner, right? Like if you're not under stress, you're usually not growing. I would say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a bit of that. It's why I was successful in my first year as an agent. It was like the power of broke. I had to be.
Right.
Every day there's those bills. Didn't So people ask me like how I made those sales. It's like I had to make those sales and always be networking and everything. So yeah.
That's good.
You got any questions coming in? Here and there?
Nothing too much yet.
Hey, Snap Squad, there we go.
Yes.
What's up, dude?
That's awesome.
Thanks for coming over. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And feel free, anyone that's not subscribed to my channel, feel free to tap that subscribe button.
All right, I'll endorse that. That's good.
Awesome.
You do that.
But yeah, I guess, so like we've kind of noticed a little bit of a difference in the real estate market compared to London, Ontario.
Yeah, since probably most of our viewers are Southwestern Ontario right now. But
you can't quite stretch your dollar as much in LA as you can in Canada.
Yeah, you buy a shit box for like, $700 grand. I mean, it's absurd.
Which looks like our 150 houses at home.
Yeah, you could buy a lot of Los Angeles for a fifth of the price in London, Ontario.
Yeah.
That will probably cash flow way better than that. Like here.
We had lunch with your buddy today, and
Yeah.
and he was, what?
Yeah,
So-
no, exactly. Here, it's about every $1 million you spend on average, you're going to get about $5,000 per month for every $1 million you have invested. So like a $1 million
Yeah.
house is probably going to rent about $5,000 a month. It's
Yeah.
before your expenses.
Mhm.
So your net on that is obviously going to be a lot lower.
Yeah, it's actually like, it seems like it's just impossible to get that 1% rule, right?
It's impossible here.
Yeah.
And that's why it makes sense too for a lot of people if they're not planning to live in the home in like an appreciating area for long term.
Mhm.
It's cheaper to rent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Why not have your landlord subsidize your living,
Yeah.
right? And I think that, like, we see it all the time too, even in Toronto with some of the condos and stuff, right? Where people are just hoping to count on that appreciation.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think it's definitely a much riskier play in Toronto right now with the condo market and what's going on. I'm not sure if it's still true this year, but last year, I believe Toronto had the highest number of cranes, like construction cranes in North America, and it's all for condos. It's just like insane
I
amount
know
of
that.
condos.
You
Like,
can't, cranes everywhere. So.
yeah, and everywhere across.
And they would buy those, like, I like to say them like a stock, because they can buy a condo, lock the door, and there's the appreciation is like the
Yeah.
stock. They don't even bother putting someone in there for $1,000.
Yeah.
And now I think they're coming up with like vacancy laws in Toronto area.
Yeah, yeah, but
You
they're
don't
trying to
want
penalize
the building
that.
empty, right?
Yeah, and they're trying to, cool down the market, but it's a little difficult. I saw that we did get our first real estate question. So someone wants to know, where is the money at? Buying a house, fixing it and reselling it, or renting it out? And so, thoughts?
You first.
Okay, sure. So like my initial thoughts on that subject matter are, you can make money in real estate a lot of different ways. And it really just depends on the exact market and kind of what you're trying to accomplish. So, buying a house, fixing it up and reselling it, essentially flipping a property, you can definitely make money doing that. If you're going to try and flip a property, what I'd recommend is you want to be able to buy it and have all your renovations cost 75% or less total of the after repair value. So let's say we buy a property for $100,000 and we're going to sell it for $200,000. That means we really want to keep our renovation budget to 50 grand or less. And the way you determine that A or B price is really going to be based upon, just looking at the comps, getting good with the market and learning as much as you can about it. I use the BRRRR method a lot, which is kind of like flipping a property, but then you keep renting it out. And in order to make decent cash flow, at least in our market, we're looking for that 1% rule. So that's where if we bought that house for $100,000, fixed it up for $50,000, then got it reappraised at $200,000, we're going to want to get close to $2,000 a month in gross rents in order to get the cash flow, the sort of returns we want. But it really does come down to your strategy, right? One problem with the BRRRR investing strategy or other strategies like it is that you're often like cash poor, where flippers are, as long as they're able to successfully flip, they get those big chunks of liquid cash, where a lot of, say, the wealth of someone that's using the BRRRR strategy gets is that's actually coming through equity, and you can't access that fully where you can fully access the flip. But the flip, you're going to get taxed, and the BRRRR, you're not going to get taxed, so it's a bit of a trade-off.
Yeah, I would definitely say play around with it. Maybe so many buy and holds, and then do a flip to like gain some quick capital, that kind of stuff like that. And like you have a great video series on all of this. If anybody's looking to figure out how to BRRRR a property, you have like 6 videos.
Yeah, six-part series,
six-part
just
series on
documenting
it.
exactly how I did a BRRRR in London, Ontario, and the exact numbers, showing you everything, and also how to kind of save money on your renovations. But so, Graham, in LA, like, what are your thoughts? Can you make money renting? Can you make money flipping?
You can make money both ways, but to flip a place here, you usually need a lot more money. Just because for it to make sense, you're gonna have to put in a lot more money. The place is gonna have to be a lot more expensive. But I mean, people could make easily like $1 million flipping a place.
And you made a comment yesterday, like they would just crush the house.
Yeah,
We
most of
went
the
through that
houses
at
here,
home.
they would just tear it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
some neighborhoods too, the land is just so valuable that it doesn't make sense to renovate what's there. Like you have to start over. You want a return.
which is pretty extreme in London, Ontario.
Yeah, and so you definitely need that huge capital base, right?
No basements here, guys. So
Yeah, the construction's very different, obviously, in the southern United States and California in particular, just because the climate's so different. So, they're not insulating the same way. They don't have like the poured foundations with basements. It's definitely a different market. But so another question we got was, how do you get rid of a tenant without like going to court?
is Kellen in the chat?
Yeah, so a buddy of ours right now is just going through that process.
Snapchat squad. What's up, guys?
Nice.
So like one of the approaches I often like to use is like literally just talk to the tenant and try and figure out some sort of win-win, right? You don't have to go through the legal process and evict them if you can just come to some sort of agreement with them. In Ontario, you're going to want them to sign what's called an N11 form, and that's just kind of like a mutual release form where you both agree to go your own ways. Now, how you get them to sign that can be a multitude of different ways. You can literally approach them and say, look, I'm going to evict you through the formal process, or you can sign this. You know, usually if they're doing something wrong, they're probably not just going to accept that. So then I start moving into, you know, you escalate one way or the other, kind of depending on the person, but often I'll just offer to pay for their moving expense or give them, you know, maybe 1 month's rent for their down payment on their new place they're going to move to. And so like honestly, even let's say I'm renting out a unit for $700 a month and I want to get rid of that tenant, it's worth the $700 rather than taking what can be up to like 3 to 6 months to actually evict them through the formal process.
Yeah.
So
my thing is I don't trust tenants at all. I wish, because I would love to negotiate with tenants and have there be a win-win. I just don't trust them.
Yeah.
I've had so many experiences where you give a tenant a little bit.
Yeah.
Just give me an extra week and I'll move out. The week passes, a few days away, a few more days pass, and I keep dragging it on and on and on. I just had so many experiences where I've seen that, and I don't trust them.
So in Ontario, it's difficult for us in the courts. What about California? Like, is it pro landlord or is it pro tenant?
It's definitely pro tenant here,
Yeah.
but what I always do is I try to offer us, you know, what you said, like a solution, but I still go through with the eviction at the same time. So at least I file all the paperwork, and it might cost a few $100 up front, but that could save you so much. Where if, you know, and then you can always just cancel. It's like if you move out, stop all of that. But at least you filed everything. You get it ready, because it's going to take you a few weeks anyway. And by that point, if you haven't worked it out, you're already 3 weeks ahead. If you work it out, cancel it, you move on. But that's how I would do it.
Yeah. And so, do you guys have like mutual release where you can just like get that agreement, or?
No, I mean maybe you can sign like a cancellation of a lease agreement or something like that when they move out, but it's not something you would do until they're like fully out of the place.
Gotcha.
And that just releases them from like coming back and saying like, wait a second, I had a lease agreement here. I should buy, you know, we're just coming out of nowhere and saying that you you know, rented their place and you weren't allowed to do that.
So someone's just wondering if we'll answer real estate agent questions. Yeah, absolutely. Hit us up with your real estate agent questions. 2 awesome real estate agents.
Yeah. Right, what's up, Alex Bob? From Snapchat. What's up, dude?
Snap Squad.
We got a few from Snap Squad.
Oh, Kellen's in there.
And so for those of you that aren't familiar with Jeff, he actually just became a real estate agent 2 years ago. So just approaching the 2-year mark right now, right? Like this month.
Yeah,
right?
8 days from now.
Oh, wow.
And Graham and I are kind of planning a video. I had done a video on Graham's channel in the summer when you came to London, Ontario, and it was like how I made $100K in my first year. So we're coming up with our second video for your channel.
How he made $200,000 his second year.
Spoiler.
Yeah, and then next year after that, $300,000
no,
third year.
Damn it.
We made $1 million.
2,999, and I'm like,
no, you gotta start doubling. You want to go 100, 2, 4, 8.
There you go. Yeah, compound. Okay. Kellen's in the chat.
So yeah, what did you notice, Graham, when you came up to London? Like, what did you notice different about, like, other than prices, obviously, and the real estate in general? You know what I mean? Like, because like California is also a very tenant-friendly environment, right? And same with Ontario is too. So it can be very difficult for both of us in our markets to get a tenant to move out if they're unwilling to.
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing for me was just the finishes. You can get away with a lot less, and nobody will do anything. Whereas here they'll pay for the the luxuries.
Because a few times you're like, I would do this, this, and this, and Matt's like, no. He's like, not worth it.
No
ROI.
Yeah, it's like my renovation budget we were saying like for my bathroom is the same as he'll spend on an entire house, and it's just a difference of area. So that's the biggest thing for me. It's just like you don't have to do all of these things. That's pretty cool. So that for me, I think was the biggest one.
Yeah. So is there like a tenant story you'd be willing to share with us, Graham? Like your worst tenant experience?
Yeah, well, the worst tenant experience was the first tenant I ever picked. It was, I was broke, I had no money, I had just bought these properties, I borrowed like $2,000 from my grandma to like help pay the contractor at the very end because I ran out of money. And the place was sitting empty and I really wanted to fill it really badly, and I had So I was under pressure. The first guy that emailed me met me at my office, and I was just like, I was convinced. I'm like, I just want to take this guy. Like,
Yeah.
he could, as long as he's not like, you know, a criminal or anything, like I'll take this guy. And I knew that. So he shows up at my office, and he's dressed in like, you know, khakis and a button-down shirt. Looks pretty well put together. He's clean shaven, and you know his girlfriend comes in too. She's all like, you know, very conservatively dressed, and they sit down. And already in my head, I'm like, you know I'm gonna take.
They got the place. Yeah.
So we do their credit and application and stuff like that. The credit comes back terrible, and he's like, you know, this is 2011, early 2012, somewhere around there. So the economy wasn't that good. So his credit was bad. He says, you know, I've defaulted on some things, and hard times in the economy. I had to let a few things go, but like I'm always up to date on all my stuff.
Sad story, kind of.
Yeah.
Gave me his application, wrote down a number, and I called the number that he had, you know, and they gave him a glowing recommendation, the best tenant we've ever had. We're sad to see him go, you know, all that sort of stuff. So, you know, and then his business was also a cash business, and he was flipping trucks. That's what he said. He was flipping trucks, and then his wife was also a psychic. Believe it or not, she's a psychic, and so her business was also cash. So they were able to show, like, you know, cash deposits in their bank accounts, and they made 3 times the rent. So I figured cash deposits, 3 times the rent, they're making money, credit shit, you know, the good recommendation from the owner, let's just go ahead and do it. And first few months were fine, were great, and no problems there. But then he slowly started getting late on the rent every month, later, and then it got to the point where really hard times, he wanted to pay his rent in chunks. So he's like, at the first, I'll pay half now, and then I'll pay the other half in the 15. And I was, because I didn't give a shit. I mean, as long as I get the rent, I don't really care. So I accepted, you know, half and half. So first and 15th they get paid, and then it became like the 5th and the 25th, and then just like the 10th, and then I'll have the rest of the money next month. And it got to a point where it got really bad. My property value within, you know, that 8 months went up, and I wanted to cash out, refi, and buy another property. And it basically turned out he was growing weed in the garage.
Oh shit.
Like selling weed. Like that's how he made his money.
Yeah.
He had a huge, the whole garage was a grow room. An insane grow room. And I found this out when the appraiser went in, and he's like, no, you can't see the garage. And we're like, we need to see the garage. No, you can't see the garage. We went in the garage. I mean, the whole thing was rigged beyond belief. He actually went around the electrical stuff, tapped right into the city, stealing electricity so they wouldn't get any like huge electric bills, because that would be a red flag for him to see that. So he tapped right into electricity. He put like holes in the wall to vent and stuff like that, like big holes. And I couldn't refinance because of that. So at that point I told him he needed to leave, and he's like, I'm not going anywhere. You know, and stopped paying his rent, set the eviction for it, he fought it. He was an idiot though, because he didn't file things on time. So like, he could have, if he really wanted to be an asshole. In California it's so bad, but like, you can hire these lawyers for dirt cheap, like maybe $600, and they could basically get you a free year of rent.
Jeez,
they can they know exactly what to say, like inhabitable conditions. And then it's up to the landlord to prove that the conditions are It's like they can claim whatever they want, and then you're guilty until, you know, proven innocent. So easily you can just delay things almost a year. So if he really wanted to do that, he could delay it for a year. He filed that too late, like a day or two too late is when he actually filed for that, and it was just like, oh, it passed. We went to court, and he wanted to fight me. Believe it or not, he's like, we should handle it man to man out the front. Yeah, like. Really like aggressive stuff. And you know, and then he also claimed, so like it was me, him, and a judge, and the judge was asking him like basically very little to me. It was all to him. Like, you know, he's saying I paid on time every single month. The landlord here's lying about everything, and they're like, do you have receipts of payment confirming that he's deposited your payment for those months? He goes, no, I left it at home. And they're like, so we're not going to take that. And then he claimed, like, you know, all these things, and they're like, do you have any proof? No, I left it at home. I left my pictures at home. I don't have that on me. Well, he's lying. So after that, they gave him like 7 days stamp to move out, and then a sheriff comes and removes him if he's not out by then. But he ended up moving out, but trashed the place. He broke windows, he broke all the appliances, punched holes in the wall. And I tried to go through my insurance too, claiming that was vandalism. They said hard living. That was hard wear and tear. And they said, we're not going to cover it. So I would actually have to go and like and sue the insurance
yeah,
company to get them to pay. Wasn't worth it. I mean, I'm not going to spend, so anyway, I let that go.
That's
terrible,
crazy.
Terrible.
2011?
That happened, I think, 2012.
So I'm curious, like, what was his reaction when you went into the garage the first time? Like, was he there?
He said first he was growing roses. He's like, I have a hydroponics for like growing roses. You can't go in there, but like we could smell it.
Yeah.
Did you have to get like bolt cutters to go in there, or what?
No. I mean, it was just he had a whole bunch of locks on the side, so he opened up the locks, and then the garage was like this, but like I would say 75% of the garage had this other little room within it, with you see, like, stuff coming out of it, and I mean, it was a nightmare.
That's crazy, man. And so, did he keep growing until he was eventually like evicted, or what? How did that work?
Yeah, he kept growing.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
he kept growing.
What would it like? I don't know what the law's like. Like, had you reported it? Like, would the police have came and raided it, or is it like a shrug here?
I don't think they very much take that seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, they have so many bigger problems and like shootings and
Sure.
murders.
Yeah.
And, like, really
I
serious
wasn't
crimes.
sure what. Yeah.
Weed is one of those things where I think they see it as something kind of harmless.
Yeah.
I mean, not allowed,
but not tapping into the city's hydro. They might.
Obviously, yeah, but I think that's not their priority. It's going after these dudes growing weed in the garage, making $5,000 a month. I mean,
it's all that for $5,000.
They're
that's crazy,
going,
man.
Yeah, they're going after the big guys.
So we're getting tons of questions flooding in now. So someone wants to know: is it stupid to buy a house in a city you don't live?
Not necessarily. Just you gotta do your homework. Hopefully you got somebody living in that city or some kind of contact if you went and visited that's keeping you informed of what deals are available, and you're really studying like the economics of like why you'd buy in that city. Like for example, I think a lot of the California people out here, it's not good for the landlord out here, so then they go, or it's the taxes out here too, right? It's very unfavorable. So then they go buy in different states, right? So they have to buy out of state. And then we're kind of lucky in southwestern Ontario. There's lots of opportunities for us,
But yeah, like I think it really just comes down to, it really doesn't matter where you buy your real estate investment, but you need to be an expert on that market or have someone on your team or hire someone that's going to be an expert on your behalf, right? So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with.
Tons of Toronto people call me about London daily, and they're doing it, right? So and then they always ask, do you have a property manager and this and that. So as a realtor, I usually give people that hookup, and then that helps me out and helps them out. So
yeah, and so Tim wants to know what percent, if we're willing, the three of us.
Yeah.
So what percentage of our holdings, like it sounds like really he wants to know what's our equity versus what's leveraged. So because I use the BRRRR investing strategy, essentially all my properties will have at least 20% equity, so the other 80% will be leveraged. So that kind of gives you a rough ratio. I would say probably if I averaged it out, it's probably around like 70% to 75% is leveraged, and the other part is equity for my holdings.
I think that's the same with me actually. So
yeah, mine's a little bit different. So I have 3 places that are owned outright, and then 2 places that I have a mortgage against. But those are bigger mortgages. So for me, it's 50-50. I have 50% equity, 50% leverage, which is not ideal for real estate. So I'm trying to actually get I'm trying to borrow way more money. Like I ideally like to get that down to about 30%. Like I feel like 25-30% is really the sweet spot.
Yeah, like barring like an absolute catastrophe in the real estate market, right? You could weather most storms and not get underwater.
Yeah, 50%. What I'm doing is not ideal, and I know that. But so I want to get another property that I can really leverage a lot.
Was it like your first one you bought cash?
First 3 were all bought cash.
Yeah, and now you kind of
I just kept them. I wish, but I didn't have credit back then. It was a pain in the ass getting a loan. In hindsight, I should have gotten like hard money loans and like short-term stuff, but didn't want to take the risk.
Yeah. And so most of your properties are single-family homes or duplexes?
3 houses, a duplex, and a triplex.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that you had triplex. Oh, cool. And so you started off with single families, or what?
First one was a single family. Second one was single family. Third one was a triplex. Then another house. Then a duplex.
Okay. Yeah. And so, any reason for for starting single family versus?
They had. I don't know. They just had. They had the best returns, believe it or not. Like, I didn't like when I was buying. I did not like the tenants and the type. Hate to say that, the type that was renting the multifamily. Mm-hmm. There was a different caliber of tenant that I saw in the area that I was buying in that would go for the multifamily. and those types of tenants were less desirable
Yeah.
from what I've seen in that area at that time than the tenants of single family.
Yeah.
The returns are pretty much the same. So I figured I can get a much higher quality tenant doing a single family than 4 problem tenants at a multifamily. The returns are the same. So I think I'd rather the single family.
Yeah. And so John wants to know, so if a tenant's not paying you rent and they're also refusing to move out, like how can you make up that money? And so like, at least in Ontario, Canada, you don't. Like, you can take them to the landlord-tenant tribunal to get them evicted. You could theoretically, I guess, like try and sue them in small claims court afterwards, but it's honestly, none of it's going to result in you getting money. Realistically, if they're not paying you when they're living in the house, the chance of actually getting money out of them afterwards is highly unlikely, at least based on my experience.
The trick will be starting that paperwork day one.
Yes.
It's just like you said, like, oh, just give me 5 more days, and then that just turns into all the time. But if you are starting that paperwork, it doesn't have to be malicious. Just be like, this is.
And it doesn't have to be confrontational. Honestly, like getting really upset and screaming at people when they're not paying you, I've never found it to result in any benefit. Right? Like it ends up just making them more hostile. Probably is going to result in them doing more damage to your property. So realistically, when a tenant's not paying you, your best bet is just minimize the amount of time that they're still in your property, right? Like, there's tenants that that they owed me like 3 months rent, they were refusing to move out, we were in the process of evictions, and then I paid them to leave, right? Like, I paid for their keys, I bought their keys. And like, yeah, it sucks when that douchebag owes you $3,000 and you're actually paying them $500 or $1,000 just to get out. You're essentially losing $4,000, but unfortunately, that's just kind of a cost of doing business, and that's why you kind of want a large buffer, right? When you're figuring out what your cash flow is going to be, you're going to want to account for vacancies as well as like bad debt or non-payment from tenants.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, it's throwing good money after bad at that point. You're not going to get it back. I mean, your chance of actually collecting is slim to none, and I wouldn't take the risk. I mean, I would just.
It's big picture thinking rather than small picture, right?
Yeah.
And so Nathaniel wants to know, do you think becoming a real estate agent at age 19 in London, Ontario is a good idea?
That's a good question.
You were talking about you need an assistant, right?
I do need an assistant. Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, slide into his DMs.
I got lots of deals for you to go at day one. So if you don't have somebody like me helping you out and you're in a different city, I think I was never an agent that young. And I know you might get some of these, it's just like, oh, you're young, you can't sell a house, because potentially you do or do not you've never even bought a house before. But technically there's realtors that are 30 and still live in an apartment somewhere and have never purchased their own home. So it's all just hard work and being confident. So it depends who you are as a person. You definitely grow into it as well too, because it's not in the books. You kind of you learn it all later. The books just teach you like how to be a realtor for like content wise, like how to do the signatures and everything, but it doesn't teach you like how to brand yourself or anything like that. So if you're good at that, if you're 19 and you're going to Western or something like that, you probably have a better Snapchat following than half the realtors out here right now. So I would work on that, and yeah, give me a DM if you want more information.
Yeah, definitely. I think to work as an assistant for the first year, or work on a team, or work with somebody else, because the first year you really need to learn so much. And that's going to definitely give you a head start. If you can work with somebody else who's already doing business, you can see how they work and kind of copy them a little bit. That's the easiest way, I think, to get ahead on that.
And so someone wants to know, is YouTube a good idea for real estate agents, and how can you kind of leverage that as a real estate agent?
So these guys have been doing YouTube a lot longer than me, and now I've jumped on that bandwagon. Like, this is fun. I like doing it. And am I great at it? Not yet, but I'm just doing it because a lot of people will just talk about it forever. So, or they're making a blog or something, but like most of the internet right now is saying blogs are dead. So you get on the vlog now. So then just get in front of the camera, provide something. Maybe you're just on travel trips right now, so that could be your channel before you're a realtor or something like that. And then you can switch it over. You might have a bit of a following. Like yours, you don't really brand like your listings or anything. You just kind of like coach on like money and real estate. I wouldn't be opposed to putting some of my, if I had like an amazing open house video or something on my channel. My channel is just kind of like all money and renovations and investor and realtor kind of mixed into one.
But I think there definitely is value there because people like working with people they like. You know what I mean? So like if they get to know you through YouTube and they like you and have just social capital with you, right? Because they've got to know you a little bit. They're more likely to, I think.
There's a bunch of realtors, I don't know what they're up to today because they never post. But most people know what I'm up to, and then they kind of like feel like they're there. Like, look how many fans on Snapchat you got reaching into you. They probably feel like they've been here, right?
Yeah. Right.
Even though they probably live across the country.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, so far I haven't noticed any like real clients from YouTube. So nothing yet so far for me has really translated to any business.
But that's also kind of your niche, I think.
That's also my
right?
niche. So I kind of put myself in a position where someone who's wanting to buy like a $4 million house in Hollywood is not going to be watching my channel. So I kind of
in this market, it's got to be hard to stand out because you're around Hollywood celebrities, whatever, right? Like everybody is bigger than the realtor here. In my market, if I get on the internet, there's nobody else in London, Ontario is like hogging that space, right?
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Here, a lot of people are hogging the space. Like I post on Instagram here, tagged Los Angeles, it gets like 3 or 4 views because it just gets buried amongst all of LA. But London, Ontario, I'll get 500 views on it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just, I don't know. I can be ahead of everybody there. So it depends on your market too. I'd say yes, YouTube. So I may want to ask everybody to share.
Oh yeah. Everyone that's watching this right now, share this video. Just click those that little arrow that shares. Share it on your Facebook, on Twitter.
And if you're new to knowing who Graham is, make sure you subscribe to his channel. It's very nice to allow us to film in the studio.
Yeah. And so someone wants to know, at what age did we all buy our first house? So I bought my first property at 25.
27.
21.
Yeah.
Winner.
Yes.
And then, so do you carry earthquake insurance?
Yes, I do. 100%. That's the thing. It's like the chance of really needing it at some point. I think I broke it down the other day with a colleague of how much earthquake insurance costs versus the chance of getting a major earthquake over the next 30 years and how much damage that's actually going to do. Like, it's really just you pay this money just in a 1 in a million chance that there's a catastrophic earthquake that completely messes up.
Yeah. What's the worst earthquake experience you've had?
Well, that was 1994. I was a kid. I mean, I just kind of slept through it. But, it did damage the place I was living in at the time. Like, I think the chimney kind of toppled over a little bit, but that was it.
Yeah.
So earthquake insurance is like in your home insurance package. Like we would have, we would have flood,
So here, if you do normal insurance, it doesn't cover earthquake. So it'll cover let's say an electrical thing sparks, your house bursts into flames, it'll cover that. But if it's a disaster like earthquake, your insurance company won't pay for it. Now here's the crazy thing, guys. I'm sharing with you guys.
Awesome.
This is a fun fact that not many people know, but in Los Angeles, over 50% of households don't have earthquake insurance.
Oh shit!
It's like you're in the minority if you have earthquake insurance. So here's my thinking about this: is that it's only the people that can afford earthquake insurance have earthquake insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So my opinion is that, God forbid, if there's a huge devastating earthquake, it's gonna hit the areas where people just can't afford earthquake insurance. If there's a devastating earthquake, the repairs can be $50,000, $100,000.
Oh yeah.
Most of the people who don't have earthquake insurance that can't afford it can't pay for this.
Yeah.
So I think really low income areas in Los Angeles are going to be hit super hard.
Yeah.
Like really hard. Especially if you have blocks on blocks.
Yeah.
They all have $50,000 worth of damage, and they can't pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be interested to see what happens if the state comes in and there's some sort of fund or grant.
Yeah.
But repairing those areas, how long is it? 5 years? I bet it's takes 5+ years to really repair those areas.
And so
I think a lot of people are going to sell.
What's sort of the cost of earthquake insurance? Can you give us a ballpark figure, or just because we have no idea?
Yeah, for the house, the Culver City house, I pay, I think it's $1,500 a year.
Yeah.
On that, the other properties, I think I pay.
And so, how would that compare to just normal insurance on the house?
So I pay normal insurance. I think it's about $110. I actually.
Okay, so it sounds like it's maybe the same cost, right?
It's basically you double up your insurance.
Yes. Okay. Interesting.
I don't even know what I paid for insurance. I know one of the houses is $600 a year, one $700. I don't know. To be honest with you. I don't know how much it is.
Brandon wants to know our opinions on Grant Cardone.
By the pool, man. All them people by the pool. Getting drunk.
I definitely I understand what he's doing. He's got a pretty good strategy, like buy 16 units and up. Everybody else will. You have videos on like why just you can buy a lower. Most people like when we're just starting out, that's the only thing you can do. Duplex, triplex, fourplex. You can't do 16. He'll just kind of yell at you and coach you to be like, go find the money, find the deal. It all come together. So I understand what he's doing. There's a lot of coaches like that in Canada as well. That are doing what he does, maybe not on like the grand scale that he's doing it at, because he's probably the loudest out there right now doing it. But like, I guess I'm not critiquing him as a person. I'm just saying I really understand his business, so I like it because he's just motivating a lot of people to do it. But then I think a lot of people watching his show are like, I don't have that money, I'm not going to do it. So
yeah, it's interesting because like I wonder, like I'm early retirement. Financial independence, that's a big thing. Minimalism's a thing for me, and so it's weird. Like, is everyone that's watching his channel, like, do they all literally want to become uber rich? Does every single person need to be uber rich? I'm not sure. Like, I think there's also a balance there, right? Like, if you got that passion, that drive, I think it's awesome to double down and just dive into and get lost in that. It can be really rewarding and real sense of accomplishment. But I also don't think that everyone has to be that way, right? Like, right now. There was a comment on your video last night, Graham, about someone was mentioning that entrepreneurship wasn't for them.
Yeah, that was a great comment. That was an honest comment.
Yeah,
really
and like a comment I don't think a lot of people feel comfortable saying almost these days because everyone's about a side hustle and past like other sources of income.
That could have been like his family situation, like like I'm away right now. I'm in LA, and like I can't imagine Gary Vee ever goes home. So it's not easy, right? So for that guy, good for you.
Yeah, I'm not into that hustle. Like, not all the time. Like,
sometimes
you get in the zone for a little bit, and I'm cool with that. But like, I'm never the type to want to like be always on.
Yeah,
it's just not me.
Like even back home, like the real estate cycles. Like this summer was crazy, but like I couldn't go to LA this summer. It'd be impossible because like I'm just so busy in real estate. Right now, I can have a bit of a break, right?
Yeah.
So now we're focusing on different things.
So someone wanted to know any suggestions or tips towards getting outside of your comfort zone? So like if you're trying to say do something new, or maybe you are trying to start a side hustle.
So Tim Ferriss has an awesome thing he wants people to do. When you're going to go buy a coffee tomorrow, you just ask for 10% off because that just feels weird in Canada and probably in the States as well. Like it puts who would do that, right? So
me, every day.
Actually, he does do it, but like because Graham has no comfort.
Graham has no comfort zone.
He can't. But it's a way like I did it on the plane. We ended up getting free drinks somehow. You didn't even get the 10%. We got 100% off. So,
yeah, literally 2 drinks for free on the airplane.
Because they're like, why? And I just said, we're behaving and all that. And then
we also got coloring books.
We got coloring books.
It's, how Grant Cardone has a 10X?
Right.
Yeah.
You guys could have hats 10% off.
Oh, I like that. That's actually really funny.
Yeah. Just everything. It's just like I want 10% off the hat.
Just in that helps with your negotiations and everything like that. So like, just puts you outside your comfort zone there, asking those questions.
Yeah, you just gotta force yourself to. Sometimes you just don't even.
Yeah,
it's the only way you grow as a person, really.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Like we talked about backing yourself into a corner a bit, like, now I gotta go do something to get out of that corner.
Forces you, yeah. I think there's a lot of value in that too. So someone wants to know, can they BRRRR a property that's 5 units or larger? You can. But it's going to be a different process. So you're going to be dealing with a different lender. There's probably going to be more fees and costs associated with getting the refinance done. But definitely it can be done. I've done it. I did it on my 20-unit parcel, and we bought it for X. We did some renovations. I think though the best, or personally my favorite way, if you have access to it, is buy that 5-unit or larger. If it's really depressed, buy it in cash if you can. And so it might sound really intimidating or impossible to buy in cash. But even if you can't do it, find a partner that potentially can. And again, you may be like, I don't know anyone that has $500,000 in cash just sitting there. Completely understand that perspective. But maybe you know someone that's got a really large line of credit, or maybe someone that owns their home outright like Graham does right now, and you can get them to get a line of credit or a mortgage on it and use those proceeds then to buy that 5-unit or larger, fix it up, and then go get it refinanced. Some banks are a little skittish about having you refinance a property if you've owned it for less than a year. And from what I've read on Bigger Pockets and stuff, it sounds like that's definitely the case in a lot of the US as well. What's the fact, have you frequently got properties like
It's 6 months here.
It's
going to be
that's
6
what you
months
need,
from
yeah.
6 months from when you purchased it to get the new appraised value.
Okay. Any tips when dealing with appraisers?
I haven't dealt with that many appraisers.
Yeah.
To be
Have the
honest.
same wallet as
Yeah, I have the same wallet as him. That was a good story. Our buddy was getting a place appraised, and he had the same wallet as the appraiser, and that kind of like helped things out a bit. So, have a whole bunch of wallets in your back pocket.
Well, and yeah, that was just like good human interaction. Like they kind of like bonded a bit.
Yeah.
And
find commonalities,
yeah.
right?
So
just be friendly.
Exactly,
Just don't be
yeah.
a dick. I
Yeah.
mean, you're late.
Yes.
And sometimes, oh my god, I'm so afraid.
Never do that.
With appraisers, I'm so afraid
I
to
know.
ever say anything like that.
Yes.
If they are late, I've been waiting here 30 minutes. Who the hell do you think you
I'm
are?
sitting there 20 minutes before.
Yeah.
Waiting for him.
Yeah, I think just like create that great impression, right,
Yeah.
when you're dealing with an
Make
appraiser.
it easy for him.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Okay. So
Lots of
what-
comments.
So yeah.
28 watching.
So what other investments do you have, Graham, besides real estate?
I have some stocks. I mean, it's nothing. It's Vanguard index funds through retirement accounts, but that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only other thing I do. Real estate's just been a priority for me.
So would you mind sharing like what percentage of your your personal wealth is in real estate versus outside of real estate?
I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm guessing probably 80% of it is real estate. Just a guess, somewhere around there. Maybe 10% is like stocks, or 15% of stocks, and then maybe 5% in cash and this car.
Yeah.
Like random stuff. But it's definitely the vast majority of it is in real estate.
And do you plan to keep that ratio, or what do you think it looks like in the future?
I just think it's more real estate. Like
Yeah.
the stocks are just something because like I feel like I should be doing something every year. Just why not? It's something. So I want to focus on real estate.
Yeah, Jeff.
Have some stocks, but mostly real estate. Just if Mitt's in the chat, I'm sure he'll be giving me that. But try not. And every week I won't call you out, Mitt. But yeah.
So do you know roughly what that ratio would be, or percentage?
Yeah, it's got to be like almost 5%, even less in stocks.
Yeah, and the rest is
all
real
real
estate.
estate.
Yeah, and so I'm actually pretty heavy into real estate too. I'd say right now it's about 90%. I think I'm going to try and diversify a bit more, but I think first I'm probably going to double down a bit more on real estate, and then ideally pull some money out and diversify. And so one of the areas I've been thinking about diversifying into that's still real estate adjacent is kind of hard money lending. And so I think that's a really interesting way to make money off of real estate without having to be hands-on or become an expert about a market or a specific neighborhood. And so, at least in Ontario, Canada, you can probably expect somewhere between 8 and maybe 12 or 14% in returns from hard money lending. There's definitely risks involved with that, but it's another way that you can make money in real estate without maybe being tied directly to a specific property.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. Like, have you ever dealt with hard money lenders, or do you know what that market's like here?
I have no idea.
Yeah. So one thing I noticed in LA when we were driving around is there's like "We Buy Houses" signs everywhere. Has it always been that way, or like when did that start happening, or can you?
I never noticed it, to be honest, but it's probably something that like I see it all the time, and just like because you it seems normal.
Yeah.
Like I've never noticed it. I never noticed it, man. To be honest.
I
I don't know. It's just like white.
Yeah.
Well, everything when I'm driving, it's
True,
usually
yeah.
I'm like busy doing something else,
Yeah.
so I don't really pay attention to what's around me. So.
Because like definitely in London, Ontario, I'd say in the last 5 years, we've seen a huge increase in "We Buy Houses" signs and like those posters and all that stuff.
Yeah.
As well as like on Kijiji. 5 years ago, there's almost like no activity with people trying to buy houses, right? And now, it's like there's a ton of ads.
And that's Craigslist for you
Yeah,
guys.
for the US, yeah. So another question here is, do we own our properties personally or in LLCs or corporations, Graham?
Personally, I should do an LLC. Maybe at one point I will. I've just done it myself personally. I haven't seen the need.
Yeah.
Personally, I have a corporation. It's not owning any real estate in it right now. It's just I did some flips in it at one point out west with my buddy Sean. But I know we've talked about this on the Cashflow to Go show before, like why, like even top accountants don't have their properties in corporations.
And so like this isn't specific tax advice or anything, but personally based on my experience, I've noticed that there's a lot more overhead costs involved with having a property inside a corporation versus outside.
Yes, that's
so like
true.
in Canada, you're probably going to pay at least 1% more on your mortgage, right? So inherently you're paying 1% more in interest on that property. So that's a huge cost. You then have to file your taxes. There's a cost associated with that. You then, Graham's grabbing a bug. And then you also just have like more overhead, there's more paperwork, all that. Me personally, I own probably maybe 70% of my real estate personally, and then 30% is in a corporation. The reason I did set up a corporation eventually was because in Canada, once you get over 5 properties, it starts becoming really difficult to keep buying them. They don't want to give you mortgages the same way. However, if you set up a corporation, it's kind of treated as a separate legal entity. You're still going to have to personally guarantee the mortgage likely, but it's a way to get access to more mortgages, more credit. So that's kind of why I started buying a corporation now, as well as using partners is another way to potentially get around having to use a corporation. So I think someone asked about, when you're applying to a brokerage, like walk us through that. I have no idea actually. Like, I think there's some agencies that seem like they'll just take anyone. There's others that are very exclusive.
So just my personal, I had bought with another realtor, but I never actually went to him for advice on where I was going to become a realtor. I knew another guy, and he was like a hard worker through some of my contractor buddies, and I just kind of like took him out for lunch, and he just said like, hey, you want to come out with me and check out some houses, like kind of like see his day, and like that sold me like right away. And I saw his hustle, and I was like, yep. I didn't even go and interview other brokerages or anything like that. I just saw, okay, I see this guy's making money. I see how he's doing it. He's just working his butt off, and we're different agents right now. Like I work pretty smart. Same with him. He's got a lot of high-end listings. I'm more in the trenches with the income properties, but just kind of went with one brokerage. And then their fee structure for the agency back in London, Ontario was perfect for me. Like I felt like, if I'm good, I can make a lot of money. So like I really like the splits there, because different brokerages will have different splits. So like that's the kind of thing you want to kind of ask about. And if you guys want to go to like brokerages that are training you, my advice is like just watch the YouTubes and Graham and get more of a peer like that than just going to the cookie cutter classes at the brokerage. Because to me, you're just copying the agent in front of you. So I don't think like the brokerage has to like completely train you. Just do it on your own a bit.
Yeah, I agree.
What are your thoughts about, like, I guess, how do you make a good impression if you want to, say there's a brokerage you really want to be a part of? How would you go about making a good impression?
I don't think there are many brokerages out there that wouldn't hire you, which is a crazy thing. I mean, you could walk into, I'd say 90% of brokerages, and they're just like, what's your name? Graham, you're hired.
Yeah, you got a pulse though.
Yeah, did you go live? Alright, we want you.
Because most brokerages, you are like a tenant to them, and they're the landlord. They make money off you.
Yeah.
If you just pay them rent. Right?
Yeah. So I think it's more important to find a brokerage that's in an area you like working in, you like the people you're working with. It does hopefully should offer some sort of training or support, so you have that as an option. But also maybe a brokerage that is going to be kind and patient. If you have any questions that people are available to ask.
I made this many phone calls in the first month, this to my broker, this many, and now it's like don't need to talk to them as much anymore.
Exactly.
But at first you're like, where do I sign? Like right here. Okay. Like
yeah, because otherwise you get with a brokerage that maybe has the highest commission splits, but if they're not giving you any help along the way, it's useless.
Yeah.
So that's my recommendation.
And also my brokerage had a lot of high-end listings, so I was attracted to that because I thought, okay, I can open house with the high-end listings right away, which I'm sure here in LA there's many high listing opportunities, but in London not as many.
Yeah.
So is it a big deal to like switch brokerages? Like, is it bad for your career? Does it look bad? Does it matter?
And people in London seem to be no loyalty and just have 4 or 5 different brokerages in their career. But and it could be because maybe just it's people things. You might want to just like break up with them a bit, right? Who knows, right? So.
My experience from seeing other agents too is that most clients don't even care which broker you're with. You know, unless you're something very specific, like you know, the brokerage that I work with is really just West Hollywood for the most part, and that's its area. But for, I would say 90%, 95% of agents, doesn't matter at all.
It's about you, not necessarily
Yes,
the brokerage.
correct.
So.
Yeah. So someone asked whether we follow the 1% rule on rental properties. So I definitely do, and that's based on my market, London, Ontario. I think Jeff subscribes to that as well.
I didn't know about this when I was first buying properties. I was just looking at the cash flow, and I was like, okay, good, $500
But
a
it
month.
kind of worked out
And
roughly.
then, now it's working out through a bit, obviously, like improvements and getting the rent up. Now it's like, okay, good, 1% now. And going forward, yes, for the most part, always.
So how do you determine, because you can't do the 1% here, Graham, how do you determine what makes for a good investment?
Depends on the area. If I really, if the area is really nice and I believe in the area long term, I'm cool with it breaking even. Like, as long as I'm not out of money every month and I believe in the area, that to me is good enough for, you know, for a lot.
So what sort of appreciation would you see you're hoping for within like a 5?
Depends.
10 years?
I would say it depends on which property it is, and I don't have a set goal for appreciation. I just feel like this place should be worth X amount in 5 years, or you know 6 years or whatever. And at that point, I think rents are going to be this, and it's going to be paid off in 30 years. I got a good interest rate on it, so I see this as a long-term hold where I'm going to make just a ton of money on appreciation.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it. It's a 30-year thing where I kind of set the money and I kind of forget it even exists, but it's in this house that's paying for itself. That might throw me a few $100 though, a month with me putting like $200,000 in it. But for me it doesn't matter. It's just I go for the appreciation, but it's just a different market.
Yeah.
Because I can't find those properties in Los Angeles.
So Robert asked, so if you buy a property personally, what happens if someone sues you? So in Canada, honestly, one of the jokes I make is the moment in Canada when someone says they're going to sue me, I know that they don't really understand how the law works in Canada. It's pretty rare that you're going to get sued, particularly for being like a landlord. It's going to go through the landlord-tenant tribunal if there's disputes or any issues. Realistically, though, in Canada, again, someone isn't going to sue you and take everything from you unless you've done something really critically wrong. So it's not a major concern of mine about owning properties personally and being afraid about being sued. There really isn't a lot of risk or additional risk or liability, in my opinion. Because at the same time, if you did something that was, like patently wrong, like something that was terrible, the corporation isn't going to be a bulletproof shield for you. They're still going to be able to come at you in different ways if you were the one at fault for something.
It's really just going after your personal assets. If you have an LLC, they can only go after that amount. But I don't know. I don't anticipate, and you always say this, I don't anticipate anyone suing me for anything. Maybe if someone falls on a property and breaks their leg,
But you do have insurance, right?
I have insurance, obviously, but if I believe anything is wrongful or anything is a little suspicious that they're trying to sue for money or something, I tend to just to fight it.
Yeah. So, have you had any issues like that?
No, I've never had anything close to ever being sued or any legal issues. Nothing.
Yeah. Are there any other real estate markets you've thought about investing in, Graham, or?
Not really. I looked into Las Vegas.
Yeah.
A while ago, and I liked that a lot. I would consider Las Vegas probably. I would consider Las Vegas, but I'm a little worried there's a ton of new construction going up there, and I'm not sure what the values are going to be like because there's so many new constructions coming up. It's like every little development community is just like 50 new homes in this little part, 100 new homes in this part. So I don't know how rentals are going to be doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are buying, I've seen in Las Vegas. So as of now, I'm going to stick with LA, but Vegas is probably the only other area right now.
So I kind of have a preconceived notion about the Las Vegas real estate market, and that it seems like it's much more like boom bust cycle. Like it's very it really swings like a pendulum.
Yeah.
Like in Canada, to me again, just my perspective, I feel like it kind of reminds me of like Alberta, where it can really swing drastically depending on. Alberta is often driven by like the oil economy, and I think Las Vegas is just kind of driven by the U.S. economy overall, as well as
Yeah, it is, but I think if you could try to, see a trend and hopefully you jump in on that at the right time.
Yeah.
Like, and again, as long as the cash flow.
It's got to be a good Airbnb kind of market there.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Also, Yosemite is a great place. Yosemite in California, to do vacation rentals there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, really good market. It's beautiful up there. You could buy a place for like $500-600 grand. That probably follows the 1% rule. Believe it or not.
Interesting. Yeah.
But it's all tourism, so you're never gonna get a long-term renter in there. Like,
Yeah.
And the only people buying those homes are other investors that want to Airbnb. So it's very much as like a hotel-like, community.
Have you ever thought about doing that in like LA, Airbnb?
They're cracking down on it a lot.
There's
a lot of regulation. A lot of people are complaining about, basically houses turning into Airbnbs and people not being happy with that. And I get that. Like, I wouldn't want the house next door to me. It's all of a sudden Airbnb and there's like random people going in and out every day. I get it. But they are cracking down on it here.
Yeah. And so, they're actually kind of cracking down on it, or they're threatening to in Ontario as well. So Toronto, Montreal, like a bunch of those cities appear to be approaching cracking down on it. London started flirting with the idea, and they've started talking about, potentially it can only be an owner-occupied property that can be Airbnb. So if it's your personal residence that you live at in London, Ontario, that's one of the proposals that came forward. I think that got pushed back until January now, so we won't know for a bit. But that's definitely one of the kind of risks with like vacation rentals in, I think, this day and age, right? Because Airbnb just shone such a bright light on it. It seems like it just wasn't nearly the same thing before that. So feel free to jump in with more questions, guys. But so someone wants to know, is it difficult to get a mortgage if you don't have a job, or like if you're self-employed?
In Canada, and I think it's the same in the States, you need 2 years of history for self-employment. So like you could have like 100 grand sitting in the bank, but if you don't have a Shoppers Drug Mart getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, they're not going to like that. They want to know where the next payment or your next work check's coming from. So, and if you don't have a job, then like I took a job to show the job letter just to buy a house, pretty much. Like, you got paid, but then I knew it was going to be a short-term job. But that's one of the strategies I quickly did. I got hired, had a salary, I was able to show it to the banks, got the next property, and ended up not working there so many months later. I knew that was coming, and that's fine. I put myself in that position, but you need to show it. Make sure you're claiming anything you can to show. We have good line 150s in Canada on the notice of assessment, the NOA. So line 150, whatever that is, we used to say like keep it around like 50 grand back in the day. So I don't know what you're Mr. Accountant, but
well, it's really going to depend on the profile of properties you're buying and stuff. So let's say if you're looking to transition from full-time employment to full-time real estate investor, making that jump, it does definitely get way more difficult to qualify for mortgages. Again, there's a few ways that you can work around that. So like partner strategically with someone that has a strong employment income, right? That's a great way. And the great thing is, like, someone that has strong employment income, they're probably focused on their day job a lot, so they maybe don't have the time or the interest to dive into real estate investing, and you as the real estate investor are the expert, so they bring the money, you bring the expertise, and you guys find the deal together and execute on it. So that's one great way. As well as setting up a corporation can be another way. You could also set up a corporation, have your corporation start paying you a salary. That'd be another way to kind of show employment income, which the bank would like, which, the banks are very driven on it. Alternatively, you could go to B, C, or like D lenders or hard money lenders. That'd be another option as well if you're if you don't have employment income, or like it's you for whatever reason aren't able to prove your income. Those are kind of workarounds as well that you could potentially use. So someone's asking whether you should create a separate LLC for each property so that you wouldn't lose everything in one lawsuit. I'll talk about the Canadian experience. I definitely wouldn't recommend setting up a separate corporation for every property. That's not tax advice though, that's just based on my personal experience. And again, it's just due to that overhead cost. Each LLC's, or like in Canada, each corporation you set up is going to have an expense associated with it, right? Your accountant's going to charge you more because they have to file a T2 for each corporation that you set up. So personally, I focus on setting up a corporation just with kind of each partner. and so that partner and I will buy all our properties through that corporation. That's kind of the way I set it up. What are your thoughts? Like, if you were to start using LLCs, would you have one? Would you have multiples?
I might do multiples, but that's a lot of paperwork. And here LLCs are like $900 a year or something. It's a lot of money for an LLC in California. So I think it works maybe on a really big level, but on a smaller level, I don't think it's, for me, I wouldn't do it. For me.
Yeah. And so someone's asking about the Vancouver real estate market. So for our Americans that are watching this, you may not be as familiar, but Vancouver is a really hot real estate market right now in Canada. Vancouver and Toronto specifically have seen a lot of appreciation over the last, 5 years. So what are your thoughts, Jeff?
The provinces, the states, have put a lot of rules on Vancouver and Toronto to cool them off right now. I don't know Vancouver as well as like maybe Toronto area, but I know there's a lot of foreign money because it's a lot of like China coming over, and then they could be citizens of Canada and they're buying the properties there. I think they're doing the same kind of strategies obviously as Toronto, buying stock, like a condo, treating it as a stock pretty much, and that's kind of why the government put a big stop on that. Vancouver seems to be ahead of all Canadian cities. They make some rules and then Toronto copies it so many months later. Because they said, oh, it worked in Vancouver, maybe we can try it in Toronto now.
Yeah. I definitely think personally that it's a very hot market. I'd be skittish about buying real estate in Vancouver or Toronto, particularly if you're looking at a lot of these condos and stuff. And so just one thing I'm going to recommend for people that are maybe looking at investment condos in Toronto or Vancouver is make sure you really understand how that board is going to operate the condo. Because I think a lot of people don't realize that you can get special assessments, right, when you own a condo, and you can get hit with huge fees. But Graham, in California, is there, or in general in the US, is there a market that you think's overpriced? Is there something that seems too hot, too good to be true?
Too hot, too good to be true. I think everything's undervalued. I don't know. I think, just don't get in a bidding war and pay
don't
too
get
much.
emotional.
I mean, don't get emotional about a deal. But long term, I think everything's. I'm pretty bullish on everything long term.
Yeah.
20 years from now.
Yeah. And so, what are your thoughts, Jeff, overall on the Canadian housing market? The rumors of a bubble, and does that affect your investment strategy?
No, I even if it comes down a bit, it's just gonna be a little blip, and we're gonna keep chugging along like normal. I don't see the whole country. The government will never allow the whole country to crash like that. I'm still bullish on Canada in general. Obviously, it's easy to invest there because we live there. Mm-hmm. We're not buying in Costa Rica tomorrow, unless we're getting a fun one. But no, I see it just chugging along. I think this spring will be hot. I did hear another realtor think it wasn't. But nobody's basing their facts on anything. I just kind of know we kind of trail in London, Toronto by a couple of months. So,
and we're hearing rumors that Toronto's heating up again, so it seems plausible that that hot market will follow down the 401 like it has in the past.
Is there cities around like Los Angeles that really, when this booms, obviously, then they kind of make
an echo boom?
Yeah.
Oh, everywhere.
Everyone. Right?
Everywhere around LA has benefited from Los Angeles getting more expensive.
Yeah.
So let's say you're looking to buy a property and you got $50 or $100 or $300,000 in cash. When you're looking for a property, what do you do with that money while you're on the hunt?
For me, it's just in a savings account. LA Bank has 1.25% interest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 1.25% interest.
You can draw that whenever you want then?
Yeah, it's paid monthly.
Oh, and then can you you can access those funds whenever, it's not locked in any way?
Nope, 1.25%.
That's actually really good, man.
It's insane. So that's where I've had my money.
Yeah.
I would just say too, if the question is where to go make money on it, sometimes you have to show that money right in your account for 90 days if you're qualifying for a mortgage. So just make sure you're aware of that. If you're moving it out, you gotta show it sitting in the account. A lot of people, eventually you can get that money in the account, you can show it to purchase a property, but that might not even be the money you actually use on closing day to buy the property. But I think good easy ones is just hard money. We have a lot of flippers that would love our money for
short periods of time
and all that.
So that would actually be an interesting way to we had a friend, Michael Rosehart, that lent out money to a local flipper, and I think he was getting around 16 to 18% because it was for a short period of time, and that guy just kind of backed himself into a corner and knew that he was going to make money off the deal, so he doesn't mind paying a high interest. You know, the reason that that interest was so expensive was because it was short term and very little notice, so he didn't have time to really shop it around to a lot of people, and as well it was because he wanted it to be completely unsecured. So there is risk that come along with that, right?
I would not want to loan my money unsecured.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So like, it's not secured against any property or anything. Like, there's agreements in place, but
so he would have to go and sue to get his money back.
Yeah. So I think.
I would never do that unsecured.
Yeah.
I would never do that for any, even if 100% interest. I wouldn't risk it.
Yeah.
That to me is low for an unsecured. Personally. For me.
Yeah, I think it depends on your personal relationship and stuff. So these guys weren't strangers, obviously, and their network overlaps a lot. But yeah, it definitely is risky. But like, you can get into secured hard money lending for like probably between 18 and as high as potentially 14% in our market. So that would be another interesting alternative. The only thing is, you know, if you tie it up with that hard money lender, you can't call it immediately. So if you find that amazing deal, you can't just immediately get access to it. So that's something to be aware of.
So we're over an hour now. Right?
Yeah. So really appreciate everyone that's joined us so far. Tons of comments coming in.
And the Snap Squad. So any of you guys who have watched my Snapchat,
really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You guys, the real MVP.
Yeah.
We love you.
We're all on Snapchat. We're all on Instagram. So make sure you guys are following us over there.
Yeah. And otherwise, what do you guys think? Should we wrap it up? Or?
I'm good.
Okay, awesome.
Take a nap.
We really appreciate it. Yeah, we had kind of a late night last night, so I think we're all kind of
doing some business networking and it went late. So.
Getting those subscribers.
Yeah.
One-on-ones.
One at a time.
And so speaking of subscribers, if you're not subscribed, I really appreciate it if you'd smash that subscribe button, smash the like button if you haven't already done it. And once you're done watching this video, feel free to jump over to these guys' YouTube channels and check out some of their awesome content.
Yeah, cool.
All right, thanks guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Graham. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Finish.